Okay. All right. So the game power rankings are done. I have approximately 2 hours before I have to leave. So I got to kind of make these quick. Wow, that took longer than I expected it to be honest. Okay, what do we got here? Next up, we'll do this one. We'll do we can forget about this. 16 on here? Yeah, 16 on here. 14 doesn't matter. Okay. All right. Next I'm doing soundtracks. Soundtrack time. Soundtrack time. Ooh, soundtracks or Overworld Theme? I'll do soundtracks and then I'll do Overworld Theme. And I'm only going to do the mainline ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 15, and 16. 7R doesn't matter. So we're going to change D tier to not part of the conversation. So we're going to do 7R. 7R's soundtrack is really good. 14 soundtrack, also really good. 11 soundtracks, fine. All of these soundtracks, let me just put it this way. Final Fantasy soundtracks in general, all fantastic. Like, the only real ones that you can kind of like, are 1, 2, and 3. And that's just because they're MIDI based, they're NES based, they're kind of shitty chip tunes. There's some things that are in those games that are far and away better than what we get even from like the more modern ones. So we'll start with 1. 1's has a B. That's a B. It's a B. It's the foundation. It doesn't deserve to be a C tier because it just doesn't. Like, the preludes here, the battle themes here, the fanfares here, everything that is formulaic to Final Fantasy as a whole in terms of like its structure of music and how it presents things that are music based starts with 1 and just continues. So 1 is B tier, without a doubt. 2, also B tier, but I think it's better than 1. 2 has a better overworld theme in general. 2 has a better final boss theme. 2 has a slightly better battle theme. Everything about 2's soundtrack compared to 1 is just a little better. It's just a little better. Final Fantasy 3, I actually like 2's more. I like it more than 1. So those are all B tiers. Those are B tiers. That's the original. That's the NES. Those games deserve to be there. Now we're getting into the weeds of it. 4 is B tier as well, but it's better than 2. 4 has some really good stuff in it and is like much of 4 is the true beginning of what makes Final Fantasy great as a whole. Starts in 4 and it can go from there. So if you can't tell, most of what I'm going to do from this point is going to be A or S tier simply because that's just the way that it is, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2. We'll get to it. Final Fantasy 5 I think is A tier. No, this is B tier as well, and I would argue 4's is better. But 5 has Battle of the Big Bridge. That makes it A. 5 has Battle of the Big Bridge. What a wonderful, wonderful soundtrack. Or what a wonderful, wonderful song. 6 is S tier, without a doubt. It is one of the most listenable soundtracks of any video game I've ever played. The only exceptions being maybe Xenogears and maybe Chrono Trigger. Yeah. 7's also S tier. No, 7's A tier, but it's better than 5. 7 has a lot of really good stuff going on in it. No, it's S tier. 7's S tier. 7 has a almost instantly recognizable soundtrack. Like, you listen to almost anything from 7 and most people that play these games will be like, it's Final Fantasy 7. And they'll know what they're kind of talking about. Final Fantasy 8 has probably my favorite soundtrack in this franchise. I would put it above 6. Man with the Machine Gun, Lamb Garden, there's so much about Final Fantasy VIII soundtrack that I have such a reverence for. It is some of my favorite music like ever. I love it. It's fantastic. Final Fantasy IX is A tier. I think it's also very good, and I honestly, I want to put, no, 7 stays in this. 9 has like a good overworld theme and has some like really good tunes overall. I think the orchestration in 9 is maybe among the best in the maybe among the best considering. But I really like Final Fantasy IX soundtrack, but I don't hold it in as high a regard as I do 6, 7, and 8. Final Fantasy X soundtrack is also pretty good. Return to Xanarkand is a wonderful track. I don't like it as much as I like 5's. Plus my distaste for the game as a whole kind of like hinders its soundtrack from really kind of elevating beyond here, so it kind of deserves to be there. 12's is better than 9's. I think there's more memorable tracks in 9, but 12 I think is just a better overall soundtrack than what 9 had. And I'll put 13 above 12 because 13 has some bangers that don't need to exist the way that they do. 15 is a C tier, and that's primarily because it is one of the most forgettable soundtracks I think I've ever heard. It's good, but a lot of what goes on in that soundtrack is me playing tunes from all of these other games via the iPod in the game as opposed to listening to the soundtrack for the game itself. And then Final Fantasy 16 has one of the best soundtracks from this current year, 2023. And I think it goes in the S tier. 16 soundtrack is so good. Soken, the composer, whom I think worked on a lot of 14's music, did a wonderful job with 16, and everything hits. There isn't a vocal track in it till the very end, unlike 15 or even Stranger Paradise, which have licensed music in them. I think that 16 just kind of stands out from the more modern stuff. So yeah, but how do I reset? Oh, wait, here we go. Strongest Protags. I don't know about strongest, but we'll okay. We're gonna go S, go A, go B, we're gonna go C, we're gonna go D, and we're gonna go F. Okay, all right. Doesn't have all the Protags, but we're fine. We're fine. Does it have Clive? This Clive? Who is this? All right, Warrior of Light. That's a C tier because you're just a generic something or other. Onion Knights, same tier, C tier. There we go. Furion. I'm gonna go A tier. I think Furion is an A tier Protag. I think he has a real motivation to do things, and he does his damnedest to do them with the help of his friends. Let's see here, because that's 1, 2, 3. Who's 4? Where's Cecil? Cecil is Cecil's A tier, and I think he's better than Furion. A lot of that is because Cecil also. Let's skip this track. Skip this track too. Skip that track too. No, skip that track. Sure. Cecil is a character that has actual character growth, and it's visual as well as being like, through storytelling and all that kind of stuff. He starts off as a Dark Knight who does some bad shit, and is very conflicted by it by the time he gets ousted from the Red Wings and is forced to kind of go on his own. And then you go to Mount Ordeals and he becomes a paladin, and in doing so figures out that what he had been doing was for the wrong reasons, and that he then grows in a physical way that is represented by a character sprite difference. He grows and becomes a better character. He's a little bit of a milquetoast character after that, but that progression throws him into a higher tier in my regard, in my eyes. Let's see here. 5 is Butts. We got Butts. Butts is S tier because his name's Butts. No other notes. 6, we have Terra. I don't think Terra is the actual protagonist of 6. I think it's Celes. but I think 6 also has like a problem with who is the protagonist, because some would argue even Locke is a protagonist. But Locke is so integrated into Celis's character growth as well. And that's why I think Celis is the true protagonist of 6, as opposed to Terra, who is like even on all the covers. It's because she's the first character. Celis has proper character growth. She starts off as, an ousted general of the Empire's army, and in being with the returners and growing within the resistance and becoming closer to Locke, she becomes a character that, though conflicted with what she has done in the past and what she, is to do going forward, she grows because she grows close to an individual who helps her find herself more, and Locke's really good about that. And then World of Ruin happens, and she ends up spending time with Sid, and Sid helps her to kind of like figure things out in a way. And then she goes off on her journey to get everybody back together. And one of the last people you get is Terra, who has her own character arc in a way. She starts off as, being an enslaved person by the Empire who can use magic. So they're trying to take advantage of this. Why she's got the crown on. And then she doesn't know who she is, but then she like is thrust into this situation where like she doesn't really have anywhere to go. So Locke, being, Locke, takes her and brings her to Edgar, and then, they go on a journey and they join the Returners and they figure out how to stop the Empire from there, and they continue to go. But then once the World of Ruin then she eventually finds out that she's half Esper. And that kind of throws her world into a world of confliction. But she doesn't have time to process it, because after we figure that out and we get her back, we gain the Magicite abilities, we then continue to go after the Empire. And then Kafka does his thing, World of Ruin happens, and Terra loses all of her will to fight. And I think like she learns what, protecting people means, and she learns what family means, and she learns what being a part of a community means in that brief time she has in Moblis. No, is it Moblis? In Moblis in the World of Ruin. And then Fumbaba shows up and causes things to go wrong, and she realizes she has to use her power to stop the bad guys from really doing their thing. And I think that character growth is good. I still think Celis's character arc is better, but Terra does have her own conflictions. All this to say, Final Fantasy VI is an S tier game in general, and even its protagonists are S tier, because of course it is. Cloud, other than looking cool, Cloud's nothing. He's a B tier. Squall, he's a shit character. He's a D tier, without a doubt. I love Final Fantasy VIII, but most of the characters suck, and Squall is among the suckiest of them. Zidane, he's a bit of a creeper, so he's going to go in the B tier as well, but he's better than Cloud, so we're going to keep him there. We got 10, 10, 10, 10. We got Tidus. Tidus is A tier. Tidus has a motivation to do... I mean, he wants to get back to Xanarkand. He wants to get back to where he came from. But at the same time, he starts off as a selfish little shit that was very privileged in his home, and comes to this area that is this new world, Spira. He knows nothing about, and he decides to go on a journey because of this cute girl that he sees, and in doing so learns more about himself and actually has character growth. Despite my distaste for 10 in general, he has character growth in a way that it feels representative of a good character. Okay, so that's 10. 11, don't matter. 12, there's Vaughn. Vaughn's not the main character of 12. He's just a character you play as to start the game. The main character of 12 is Balthier. And his story is interesting. Vaughn has probably the most in terms of a character arc, in terms of character growth, because he starts off as like a selfish kid that just wants to be a pirate. Actually, no, he doesn't. He doesn't. I don't know if any of the characters in 12 grow in any meaningful way. It's just Balthier's just a good character. He's like a good protagonist. Vaughn, on the other hand, kind of sucks. And I actually like Cloud a little more. No. I like Vaughn more than Cloud. I actually like Vaughn more than I like Zidane. So we'll put him there. Lightning's cool as shit. She goes in the S tier. She's just a cool, capable character. Great design. Really kind of determined, really self-sufficient, all that kind of stuff. I think this is the Warrior of Light from Final Fantasy 14. I don't think that's Clive. Yeah, I think overall, I think just a solid character. Noctis is, yeah, okay, well, that's fair. What's up, Nate? Noctis is, oh wait, I'm not ranking soundtracks anymore. I forgot to change this. Whoops. I'm ranking Protags. Noctis isn't a bad character. He does have some form of character arc overall. I just don't really know where to put him. He's not the worst. Definitely not the best. He's kind of a middle of the road kind of character. He's better than a Warrior of Light for sure. And better than Onion Knight. These are just nothing characters. They're so blank and devoid of any real personality that like there's no reason for them to be any higher. That being said, they don't have a shitty personality like Squall does. He gets better towards the end of the game, but it doesn't make him any better. He's a B tier character that I think is better than Cloud. Yeah. All right, this is Clive Rossfield. Clive Rossfield is an S tier character. He's very good. I think they did a great job with him. He's a softie, but he's also a hardened dude. But he's also an actual like man, and I mean that in that he's not a teenager. he's a proper adult. And you know, he cares for the characters in his life and all that kind of stuff. I think Lightning's better. I think he's better than Butts, but I don't think he's as cool as Lightning. Yeah, and this, I don't know what this is. This is just a thing. Doesn't matter. Download that. All right, we're done. Protags ranked. Done ranked. Final Fantasy 6 Protags are the best Protags in the franchise. I said it. I mean it. Ooh, battle systems. Oh yeah, all right. So on my list, I have game power rankings, which is the first thing I did. Soundtracks, which is the second thing I did. Protags, which third thing I did. I was gonna do villains, but like none of the villain ones are good. But mechanics. So battle systems. I can do this. All right, let's go. Okay, let's change this. I need to hit enter. I don't understand. That's not how it works. All right, so the Final Fantasy battle system. We'll go S, A, B, C, and D. I'll just keep them simple. I don't really have any. It could be like, oh, goats and blah, blah, blah. No, fuck that. I don't care. S, A, B, C, and D. So, Final Fantasy 1, its combat system is down here. No, it's D tier. It's so basic. It's the basicists of basic, and it kind of falters a lot because of it. But it's the foundation of the franchise, so take that for what it is. Final Fantasy 2's isn't much different in terms of its basic combat mechanics, because what you do in combat is so intricately linked to your character stat growth and your character progression, I actually would put that in A tier. And a lot of that is simply because of how integrated the combat system is to the rest of the way your characters develop and what your characters become. Otherwise, it's a D tier. It's super bare bones. There really isn't much going on, but it integrates in a way that is so unique to the experience of playing a Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy 3's is also really bare bones. Does have the job system though it is lacking in true like improvement. I'm gonna put this in C tier because I don't really think it's that much better than what 1 did, and the job system I don't think changes much in that way. Final Fantasy 4 is, let's see here, what does it do? Final Fantasy 4's first introduction of the active time battle systems, that's gonna go A. And it is better than 2. Actually, I'm gonna put 2 in B just because putting it in A is a bit too much. B is a good spot for it because the combat system itself is basic, but the integration and character progression is significant. 4's combat system is the true introduction of the active time battle system in a way that feels really nice and allows you to kind of like progress with think about more about how your character is going to go. It's not the same as 10 with its the character turn order nonsense, but it's good for what it is. Let's see here. 4 After Years, it's the same thing. Don't care. Didn't play it. Doesn't matter. 5's is A tier, and I will hold it in higher regard than 4. Similarly, it's more of what 4 did, but with the introduction of the job system, it kind of changes how the battle system works in meaningful ways. Your character builds determine a lot of what you're doing in combat, and combat can change depending on what your character loadouts is going to be in terms of character speed, character damage, spells you can cast, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think 5 is better than 4, but it's among the same ways. 6 is an S tier. It's the same thing that 4 and 5 are really, but with the Magicite and the way that a lot of that can go, the improvements upon the active time battle system, the introduction of character-specific move types, such as the blitzes, the sword techs, tools, turning into an Esper, having no control as a berserker snowman, dances, stealing stuff, runic being like an actual like strategic element in some of the earlier fights, and can even be so in later fights if you use it correctly. The rage mechanic, like every character having a unique way to interact with combat on top of combat being your basic attack, magic, item, so forth. All of that is perfect. It's a wonderful combat system. 6 really truly enhances that. 7, where's 7 on my list here? 7 it's the introduction of the limit breaks, but it really doesn't do much else other than what 6 did. It's better than 4 and 5. Materia builds, yeah, I mean they're a part of it too, but it's not quite the same thing. 7 does have materia builds, yes, but those, I don't know if those are as integral to character progression as 6's materia or Esper stuff. No, 7 is S tier as well. The limit breaks really kind of change a lot of how you interact with that combat system. I still think 6 does it better. 7 is what it is, and I think 7's fine. 8's, I'm going to put 8 in S tier, and I'm actually going to put 8 above 7 because I enjoy the uniqueness of 8 more Is it better? Actually, probably not. But I have more fun with it in my eyes. This is my list, goddammit. So it'll be what it is. But no, eights is unique. The draw system is interesting, though flawed and kind of slow. It does change how you interact with a lot of it. You don't do much outside of just attack because you don't want to use magic because it's probably junction to something and you don't want to deteriorate your stats. But in how you build out your character with all that does kind of change how you would interact with the combat system in some ways. The limit system, I think, is improved upon from what it was in 7 in terms of how once you have it, it's your choice to use it. And if you don't, you might not have that ability the next turn, but you can constantly cycle through turns until you get it once you have full limit break gauge, all that kind of fun stuff. Eights is truly unique, which is why I hold it in as high a regard as I do. It just is what it is. Like, yeah. I didn't really expound upon 7 as much as I probably should have. Final Fantasy VII's combat system is fine. The only things that I hold against it is it doesn't really feel like a real upgrade to what 6 did, in that 6 has characters that all have unique abilities amongst themselves. 7 allows you to do that with the materia system, but as I mentioned when I was ranking the games, I don't think the materia system's as interesting as it could be, and I think it's a bit more tedious than it has need to be. It feels like it's padding the game out. It's good, but I like what they do with the Magicite in 6. It's much more straightforward. It's easier to integrate and easier to think about moving your characters forward. It's less complicated on top of a game that already has so many characters to choose from. 7 says, all right, let's cut the character count in half, and we'll make your character builds and all that kind of stuff a bit more complicated, which can then lead to much more interesting strategies, which is why it's better than 4 and 5, because there's more going on here. It's closer to 5 than I think it is to 6, but it takes a good entry because of the way that 5's job system integrates with the battle system and how it changes how you interact with combat. But I think 7 is like a weird combination of 5 and 6's combat systems put together in a way that works, but I don't like it as much as I like 6. Hope that explains it better. Final Fantasy IX is an A tier. It's better than 4 and 5, but it's very much the same as 4 and 5. I don't really think it does anything truly different. Each character does have the limit break system in 9 is a little better than it is in 8, but 9 was like a return to form. I've mentioned this many times. 9 was like a return to form, and it was very safe. One of the interesting things about 9 in general is the way that character progression works, in terms of like you fight these fights, you gain AP that goes towards learning new abilities, which can then you then attach to your characters, and that changes how your character works in combat going forward, which is really interesting and unique and kind of lends to some of the same type of character builds you would do in like say 6 or 5 or even 7 to that regard, or 8 to a lesser degree. And you can kind of change how your characters act, but it doesn't fundamentally change what the combat system is, and that is simply a active time turn-based combat system. It's good for what it is, and it is probably the better of the more bare bones active time battle systems, but it doesn't really do much. 10's combat system is S rank, as much as I hate to admit that. I mentioned this in the power rankings of the games. 10 is a very good game. It just fails on a lot of things that that make me sad. Especially in terms of like later portion of the game. But 10's combat system is among the best in the franchise. It's better than 8. The introduction of turn order and the swapping in and out of characters to take advantage of enemy weaknesses, I think works significantly better than it really has any right to. Regardless of if the end of the game just kind of spikes up in difficulty, it still works. And even in boss battles, it allows you to change your strategy kind of on the fly. 10's combat system is really good. Really good. And works better than it should. It's a little slow, but I mean, most of these are. All right, 10-2's combat system. That's an A rank. That's A tier. It's like the better of the active times. It's better than 4 in my eyes, but I still think I like the way 5 does its thing more than I like the way that 10-2 does its thing. 12's combat system is odd. I actually probably should change these, because 12's probably going to end up in A. I really like the way 12's combat system works. Once you understand 12's combat system, it works really well. It's just, there's a learning curve there that kind of sucks. Yes. 12, once you get a better understanding, it does become, I do agree with that. But I think because of how difficult it is to parse right away, and of course you have to buy like the new if-then statements, it's going to end up in A, but it's at the top of the A tier for sure. 13's combat system. Actually, I'm going to put it right next to 12. I think 13's combat system is also very good, but takes a bit to parse. But once you get the hang of it, it's very fast. And that is one of the things that sets it apart from all of these other combat systems, is that 13's combat system is very fast. Once you understand what's happening within the game and how to like truly utilize the speed with which, plus the stagger system's so good. Like there's a reason Octopath Traveler 1 and 2 are among my favorite games like of all time. And that's because they take some of the best things from two of the most popular Final Fantasies and mash them together. You have the turn order that you can manipulate from 10. Then you have the break system, the stagger system from 13. You put them together in like a wonderful package and you get a fantastic combat system. And in their own way, I think they work well. 13's combat system is very good. 13-2's combat system is, trying to remember it's not much different than 13's. It's a little faster, it's a little more straightforward, but I think 13's works better as a whole. I'm gonna put this in B tier above 2. 13-2's combat system is good, it works, and it changes 13's in substantial ways, but I think 13's works really well for what it is. The main difference here is once you understand 13's combat system, you can make it sing. Whereas 13-2's combat system, I don't think works in the same way. I'm trying to remember. In that, like, it's very easy to pick up from the beginning. It doesn't really change much. And because you only really have Noel and Sarah to play with, you can't really do much to make it work for you in the same way that you can make base 13s. Lightning Returns is not great. I didn't enjoy it very much. It's unique and interesting for what it's trying to do, but it's not very fun. I think 3's is better. 14 doesn't count. 11 doesn't count. Where's 16? Let me put a boy up here. Final Fantasy 15's combat system. It's a C tier for me. I think Final Fantasy 15's combat system is fine, but it's just one button. You just mash and circle the entire time. You can pull up a menu. it's just really simple, and it doesn't really allow for a lot of like strategy and like how you do anything in the game. It's just kind of meh. Um, it's cool and stylish, but it's not great. It doesn't really do anything to push the needle for me, and I just kind of like meh. Final Fantasy 16, on the other hand, is A tier for sure. Or S tier, sorry, S tier. And I think I'm gonna put it in the front. It's so different from every other game's combat mechanics that it's hard to kind of like mix it in. I mean, you can say the same thing about 15. Like, they're both kind of the same. They're like opposite ends of the spectrum, though. One's really fucking good. The other one, not that great. Yeah, I think Final Fantasy 16 might have like the most satisfying combat system in the franchise, but it's a character action game. It's Devil May Cry. It is, you know, it's what you would expect from something like that. Now, if I were to rank it amongst like character action games, how would it fare? It's fine. I think Bayonetta has a better combat system. Bayonetta 2 specifically. I think Ninja Gaiden 2 has a better combat system. I think Devil May Cry 5 has a better combat system than Final Fantasy 16. But in terms of comparing it to the other Final Fantasies, 16's combat system, the way that it's built, works incredibly well. It's exactly what it should be. It's exactly what you want from a character action game. And you know, you can hold that against it, I guess, but I don't. I think it's great. And then that's all of them. Like, I'm not going to rank 4 After Years. I'm not going to rank 11 or 14 because I've not played either of those. And I'm not going to rank 7R because it's not a part of the conversation. It's not. It's not. It's not. If I were to put in, actually here, hold on. Let me upload some more here. We're going to do, where's my dirt? We can throw Crisis Core up there. We can throw, do I not have Dirge of Cerberus? Where's Dirge? Oh, we can throw Stranger Paradise up there. All right. Crisis Core's combat system, I think, is a B tier. It's better than most. It's really straightforward. It's better than 15's, but I don't think it does anything truly unique or fantastic to really push it up to the A tier. It's just a hack and slash that feels good to do. Stranger of Paradise is A tier, and I'll put that up at the top of A tier, much like 16, where it's just a character action game. Stranger of Paradise is a Souls-like in many regards, and has a very satisfying combat system akin to a Souls-like. Feels good to play, feels good to do. Magic is a little cumbersome, but is powerful enough to make the the difficulty in casting it worthwhile. So, you know, I'll put that there. Dirge of Cerberus is D tier. It is the exact opposite of what this is. It's a shitty Devil May Cry. It's not good. It is the worst in the franchise. I still don't quite know why I played Dirge of Cerberus, but like, I didn't hate it. I just didn't like it. There's a difference there. Yeah, there we go. There's my ranking of my combat, of the battle systems. Reset. Hey, there we go. All right. For this, my last thing I'm gonna rank here, and before I call it good, is I'm gonna rank the Overworld Themes. We rank in Overworld Themes. In this, I'll be much more critical, and I will try to not use as much nostalgia as I have been. But that's part of why I have this playlist that I have, is it has all of these Final Fantasy games on it. Jesus Christ, why didn't I just make one of all of the OST, or of the Okay. All right. All right, Nobuo. Coming back to you. We're gonna go here. Where's Final Fantasy? All right. Do we want the opening theme? No. Main theme? Yeah, here we go. All right. This is Final Fantasy I's Overworld theme. It is really straightforward. I think it's good for what it is. Considering the time frame that this came out. It's the NES, 1987. 87. It's... You start out the game, you boot it up, you get... The screen goes brrrr, like that, and it's you in front of Corneria. And this theme's playing. There's a hint of adventure here. It's a nice, like, just fun kind of song. Like it I don't know, it works. It's good. It's a great foundation for a franchise that is going to have banger upon banger upon banger of overworld themes and music in general. But because it's so simple and because it just is what it is, it's B tier. It's a fine overworld theme, but it's not anything super great. It's just an overworld theme. All right, Final Fantasy 2. Back to over here. Final Fantasy 2. It's this one, right? No, not that one. Is it? Not the Prelude. That's just Final Fantasy Prelude. Which is an all-timer, to be honest. Oh, main theme. It says main theme. This may be my favorite of the overworld themes. It's somber. It is a little foreboding. It fits exactly with how desperate your characters are in the grand scheme of the story. It is one of the few that fit the mood perfectly. Like, you boot up the game. We'll play the PlayStation version. You boot up the game. You start the story. You get your opening movie, which didn't exist in the first game. It explains the situation, explains how the world is set up, and it explains what's happening. And then it says your protagonists have been ousted from their hometown by the Empire, and they're being pursued. And then you're thrown into a fight. And you have your four characters. You got Leon, you got Firion, you got Guy, or is it Guy? And then you have, why can't I remember her fucking name? It's driving me nuts. Here, I'm gonna cheat. FF2. I don't. Maria. Okay, there we go. So you got Guy, or is it Guy? Firion, Maria, and her brother Leon. And you get into this fight, and you start fighting, and then you lose, and your characters are wiped out. And you're like, well, shit. What is this? And then you're introduced to everybody. You wake up. You're introduced to Minwu. You're introduced to the queen or the princess, I think. And then Leon is missing. And then it's like, well, what do we do? Well, let's go back and let's explore. And then you get out of that town and you get into the overworld and you hear this beautiful theme that it like really kind of sets the tone of what kind of an adventure you're going on. I'm gonna play the original again because I think it's the better version. It's haunting. It's just Final Fantasy II's Overworld theme is an S tier. I think it's so good. I think it's perfect for the game that it is in. I think it fits the situation so well. And I don't think the rest of the franchise does as good a job with setting the tone. But I mean, it's been a minute since I've like listened to all these. I'm going to go back through and try and listen to all of them as we go through this as a means to try and rank them appropriately as opposed to just trying to do it off my brain. Final Fantasy 3. Don't know what it's titled. Okay, it is Eternal Wind. We're going to finish up listening to the main theme from Final Fantasy 2 for a moment. Just because it's so nice. So pretty. I like it so much. Oh, why isn't that on my liked songs list? Number 1000. Let's go. All right. So Final Fantasy 3 is Eternal Wind. I just realized I probably should turn these up. That's fine. All right, so Final Fantasy III's main theme, Eternal Wind, I think is also very good. I think it's just a really good song. I don't really think it fits the mood of the game as well. But I do think it is definitely one that kind of stands out overall. Just the composition of it works for me. I like the wind instrument over top, like that fluty sound, kind of like just it sets a mood on its own, and the dancing melody underneath adds to the sense of adventure, which you want. I think 3 is an A rank theme. I think it's very good. It doesn't quite fit what's happening like 2's does, but 3 does give you a good sense of adventure, which when you're thinking of an open world or of an overworld theme, you want it to enhance the sense of adventure that you get from playing one of these games. And 3's, I think, does a good job of it. 4. Let's see. Final Fantasy. The main theme, isn't it? Yep. If it needs to be a little louder, you can let me know, and I can turn it up a little bit. So this isn't the first thing you hear in Final Fantasy IV. The first thing you hear in Final Fantasy IV is the Red Wings theme. This. Which is fine. It's a good introduction theme to the game. But you don't hear it all that often. You hear it more often than you probably should, but you know, it's just what you enter. But this is the Overworld theme. Once you get out of, when you head off to Mist with Kain in tow to deliver a package to the village of Mist. I think it's, you fight the Mist Dragon beforehand, and then you blow up Mist. Either way, you hear this, and like this adds to the sense of adventure. There's a quality to it that I think works pretty well. It's not a bad Overworld theme, but it doesn't really do as much for me as either 2s or 3s did, and there isn't the nostalgia there either that kind of goes into it. It's still very good. But it also feels a little generic, especially for the time. I don't know, that's really good right there. No, I'm gonna put this in B tier. I'm gonna put it above 1. And that's not to say it's bad. It's just, I don't think it really does as much to enhance the feeling of exploration that 3s and 2s does. But it fits everything much like 1. And is kind of the foundation for what you get going forward from here. What's Final Fantasy V's name? Head on our way. No, that's not that. That's not the theme when you're in the Overworld. You know what though? It has a couple different Overworld themes because each of the worlds that you're in has different ones. So there's 3 different ones. I want the main theme. I want the Overworld theme. Okay, so this is the 3rd world Overworld theme. I want to listen. I really like this, and it fits really well. I just want to know what the other 2 are. Is it Unknown Lands? Yeah, I think this is the 2nd world's Overworld theme, which I think is pretty good. No, that plays there in the beginning. Ah, okay. Yes. This is the first world theme, if I'm not mistaken. So 5 is interesting because it has 3 different overworld themes, all of which I think are good and fit kind of the setting. And because it's the first game to have multiple overworld themes, because although 4 does have multiple overworlds, but I mean, there's the one that you know. We'll base this off just the first one. So this one here, this one's okay, I guess. I think the third overworld theme's much better. And I would argue, I think the second overworld theme's better than this one too. I'm gonna put this in the B tier behind Final Fantasy 1 or behind Final Fantasy 4. Because it's good, and I think Uematsu is doing more with the sound chip than he did in the first game, or than he did in 4, but I don't think it's quite there. Yeah, it fits. It's fine. It's good. All right. On to... Oh, where are you? We just listened to it earlier. Yeah, this is S tier, without a doubt. Much like Final Fantasy II's Overworld theme, which I think 2's Overworld theme fits the setting better. Much like Final Fantasy II's Overworld theme fits the setting and fits the mood of the game that it has introduced to you so far. 6's, the Terra's theme in particular, I mean, it helps that it's tied to a specific character, that being the main character of the game, in a way that really helps kind of like the game, helps bring the game together. Like a sense of adventure, a sense of somberness here. There's a sense of excitement as well in what's to come. There's a lot going on with this particular piece. And 6, Uematsu kind of like has figured out exactly how he's creating this music, affecting it in a way that shouldn't work on a 16-bit console, but does. And you can see it in what he's doing here. And like everything about this works on so many different levels. S tier for sure. The only one so far that I think really hits the same is 2 with the main theme from Final Fantasy 2. I think that one just fits that setting more. This works in a similar way. Yeah, it's just very good. All right, Final Fantasy. This is in the Overworld theme. Oh, it is. So 7 has kind of the benefit, or well, maybe the benefit of the longest setup of these games that I can think of. In that you don't touch the overworld for several hours into the game. I think it took me 5-6 hours to get out of Midgar. You spend a lot of time in Midgar, which doesn't really have an overworld theme. It just has themes. Sorry, that one just kind of hits in a way that it shouldn't. But this fits. Is like I'm based on how I've like judged the rest of these. It's like how does the overworld theme fit with the setting, with the way that the story has set itself up, and the moment that you experience it for the first time. And with this, you finally get out of Midgar, and you hit the open world. You're like, oh, okay. And it's this like light, kind of melancholic sound that has a little bit of hope within it, and just kind of like fits, has like a jauntiness to it, that not like a giddy up jauntiness, but a jauntiness of like I'm meandering and I'm wandering a world, and it works really, really well. And it fits the feeling too, because there's a sense of adventure there, like right now, where it's like, oh, I'm finally out from the industrial area, the oppressing industrial area that was Midgar, and now I'm free to explore. But at the same time, it's like, but the world is in such dire straits. What's to happen? So there's that melancholic feel to it, as well as kind of the upliftingness of the adventure aspect of everything. And I think it works in a lot of ways that I wasn't giving it credit for in the first place. It's S tier, without a doubt. Next up, Final Fantasy VIII. Where are you? If I'm to judge this based on how I've judged the rest of these, let's think about the setting from when you've experienced the first time. Start the game off. There's a cutscene where Cypher and Squall are fighting each other. You then end up in a classroom at Blam Garden. You then go through all this rigmarole of going through class, doing all this stuff, and then you leave the garden to go to the fire cabin for the first time. So you're with Quistis. It's Squall and Quistis. You leave Blam Garden, which has its own, in its own regard, a banger of an overworld theme. It's just a pleasant tune. It's the first one you interact with. So, this puts you in like a calm space because this is where you start. Then you get into the open world and you get blue fields. And there's a hint of mystery to it. It's inviting because it's like, oh, well, what's this? Let me tiptoe over this way. It has that kind of feel that where you want to get into it and kind of like you want to explore the world because the music makes you feel like you should go and examine what's over here, what's over there. And it adds a bit of mystery and lightness to the overworld as a whole. And it fits with what you're doing. And then you get into a combat situation. You have to listen to Don't Be Afraid, which is do this, and then you go back to this. That kind of thing. I'm gonna put this in A tier. Head of Eternal Wind. I love this Overworld theme. And like I said, I think 8th soundtrack is my favorite in the franchise. But in terms of how it works with when you're introduced to it for the first time, I think it's not quite as good as these 3 in S tier. Like 2, 6, and 7 do such a good job of fitting with the way the game's presented itself and the overall themes that are happening and how you are meant to feel in that particular instance. I think those 3 games do a better job than what 7 or what 8 has done so far. Okay. 9's Overworld. I mean, they're all good. They're all good. Final Fantasy soundtracks are all fantastic. Crossing the North. Oh. Okay, that's under Square Enix. Where are you? Is it over there? Yeah, it's over the hill. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so Final Fantasy 9 is an interesting one because much like 7, it takes a long time to get to the point where you actually get to experience the overworld theme. You start off the game, you infiltrate and capture Garnet. You then end up in Petrified Forest, or the forest that becomes petrified. And from there, you then exit and you go on an adventure. In this song, does a great job of filling you with that sense of adventure that you don't get, or that you want when you're going forward. It's a bit more lighthearted than the setting would allow. Like Final Fantasy 9 is kind of dark, just in general. It feels more lighthearted because the character designs, but it's definitely a darker game. In terms of like the existentialism, the existentialism in the crises that the characters have to face. This song is a bit too upbeat for the tension that you are experiencing, but at the same time, it fits because Garnet is finally out of the castle. She's finally free to go and explore however she'd like, and she has Zidane there to help her, and Vivi there to join them. Steiner's there too, I guess. So yeah, it kind of fits, but it doesn't feel as interesting overall. And for that, I think I'm gonna put it in B. No, I'll put it in A, but it'll be after 3. I think it works, but it doesn't feel as good. And then from here, we get into some interesting things because 10 doesn't really have an overworld. It has interconnected worlds. It has a main theme, which I'll probably go based on. 12 doesn't really have an overworld either. It has a map that you can look at, but each area is slightly different. 13's kind of the same. 15 does have an overworld theme, and 16 does as well, to an extent. Sort of. So for 10, we're going to go based on the main theme of 10, which is Tizanarchy. That might not be fair. Tizanarchy is one of the better songs. Is it this? Oh, this is just the main theme now. I don't want Titus' theme? What's Titus' theme? I'm gonna actually do this. So 10 doesn't really have an overworld. Does 12 have an overworld theme? Yeah, 10 doesn't really... There's... Run. No, this is your story. Creep. We are Albed. Besaid. Each area has its own theme, but that doesn't really like do the same thing that I'm looking for with overworld themes here. So 10 doesn't have one. 12 really doesn't have one either. This is a solid song, don't get me wrong. But it's not quite there. So 12. Twelve has the Streets of Rabanastre, which is like the first theme that you get in the game. You know what? Actually, hold on. Put this back to D. I'm gonna treat Besaid as 10s. So let's go back to that real fast. Because that kind of works. It's the first area you're in. While the game doesn't really have an overworld, it's the first kind of experience you have with an overworld theme. So we'll listen to this for a second. Okay, so I've been doing taking the context when you hear this. This isn't going to stay here, just so you know. Let's take into context when you hear this for the first time. You are Titus, you've just been sucked from your home of Xanarkand, and end up in some place where you have to fight this weird sea creature, and that's very cold. And then all of a sudden, this weird little blonde girl shows up and helps you like succeed, but she speaks a language you don't know. And then from there, you then end up in water again, but Sin shows up, and then you don't know what's going on, and then you wash up on this shore with these dudes throwing around a blitzball. Something you finally know. Your character finally recognizes something about this world that was from his. And you interact with Waka and then the other blitzers from Besaid. And you kind of run around and just kind of, you make your way back to his village. And this is the theme that you hear. It's the first like overworld theme that you hear that really kind of resonates, or at least feels attached to an area. The area that you were in before, after getting sucked from Xanarkand, doesn't feel like an area that's important. And I mean, when you're with the Albed, also still doesn't really feel important until you get to Besaid. And yeah, it's a bit more lighthearted than the situation. I mean, your character who's been essentially isekai'd to another area, but you're still kind of in the same world, you just don't feel like it. And it's a bit happy, it's a bit go-lucky. It doesn't have a sense of adventure to it in a way that these other ones do, because it's not really an overworld theme, which is the one downside to it. It's not really an overworld theme. It's fine, it's good, it fits the setting, because the setting's very like bright, very colorful, very lighthearted. But yeah, I don't know. I would actually put this in C. It is what it's fine. It's good. It's just not. It doesn't fit the situation like the first 9 do. So for 10 or for 12, we're going to Streets of Rabanastre. So with this, you get the introduction of the game, which is you as Vaughn's brother, and run around with Bosch von Ronsenberg, and you're going through that castle, and it sets up this like interesting dynamic where Bosch gets to his prince, but only to find out that he's been betrayed by someone who looks like him, and you don't know what's going on. And it cuts to Vaughn running around the streets of Rabanastre about I think it's 13 years later. And this is the first area you get to explore. You get to explore it for a while. You're in Rabanastre for a long time, and you end up going out into the sands and all this kind of stuff, do all this other stuff. But this is the first area that you get to hear, and this fits really well with what's going on, because Vaughn is a character he's young, he's got a lot of ambitions, a little thief, but he's got a lot of ambitions, and there's some wonderment and some whimsy to his character and like his mental capacity. And this song has a lot of that. It feels, there's a whimsical aspect to it. There's a slight sense of adventure. There's a feeling of like a flight of fancy in a way where it's just like, this is flitting along kind of thing. And there's a lot of positivity to this particular track, which fits with Vaughn, the character, which, this is your first instance being him, and he's running around with Nello, and, they're just kids. They're just kids having a good time growing up in these rough streets of Rabanastre. And I think this fits really well and works for what it is. I'm going to put this in A tier. And I'm going to put this above 9. Does it fit the scene? Oh, it fits better. And I would actually argue that fits better than 8. Yeah, no, I think it's a high A. This is a solid track. Solid track. 13 doesn't have an overworld theme, does it? The Promise is the main theme from 13. All right, let's see what this is. Yeah. It's not what I'm thinking, though. All right, real quick. So when I think of 13, let me find the instance that I would put this theme that I want, because this game doesn't have an overworld theme, much like 12 and much like 10 don't. So when I think of 13, the first instance that I think of, like, when I have the music and when it matters is, oh God, that's a tough question. I might not be able to pull one out for 13. There's the intro cutscene, which is quite long actually. Starts on the train, and then once you get off the train, the first time you get to run around as your character is during the escape sequence, which actually is pretty long. Oh, it does have an overworld late into the game, and I think I'm gonna go up based on that. That's the Mashif Highlands, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here. Where the Ashash Massif. Okay. Here, or is it the Arclight Step? No, it's here. It's this. We're gonna use this as the overworld theme for 13. So late into the game, late into the game. I'm talking 20, 30 hours. You're late into the game at this point. You finally get an open world. And I believe the open world is the Arclight Step. But the Yashas Massif is where you spend a lot of time kind of running around amongst that. Like the Arclight Step is the big open area, but the Yashas Massif is like one of the areas that you spend a lot of time in to progress the story. Legitimately, you do it to progress the story. There's some side content there too, but you do it to progress the story. And it's not open like the Arclight Step is, but it's where you spend a lot of time backtracking. So it's as close to an open world as we're gonna get, and it's what I'm gonna pull. One, I like the song, and two, we can work with it. So think of the situation here. You spent several hours getting to know these characters and getting to push the plot forward a little bit, and you escape Pulse. Is it Pulse? No, you escape to Pulse. You escape to Pulse from Cocoon. Okay. And your characters kind of lost as to what to do. They don't really know. So Vanille and Fang say, hey, let's go back to where we're from. And so you make your way across the Arclight Step, which is fine. The theme for that's not really that great. It's not as whimsical as it could be. At least I don't think so. Let's listen to that real fast. Nope. This is actually the overworld theme. This is the more... Okay. Yeah, because there's also the Chocobos of Pulse, which is one of the worst Chocobo themes. I was going to do rankings of Chocobo themes, but I don't have time for that. So yeah, this is the Arclight Step. We're listening to a little bit of that. Okay, so this, similar to what I was saying, they get out of Cocoon and make their way to Pulse. They're running around, and they're here. They're in this open area before they head off to the Shas Massif, where they will then progress with the actual story. This is the first true open area. It's the only real open area of the game, and you get to it really late. There's a feeling of desperation in this song, but it also is just the main theme of Final Fantasy 13, just a motif of that, like a kind of a play on what that theme is in a way. It's a little light. There isn't really a sense of adventure. It doesn't really like add to the mysticism of finally getting to an open world. It's pleasant, but and it's really unoffensive, but that just kind of is what kind of makes it not really work as an overworld theme, because it just kind of sits in the back and doesn't really do it. Which is fine, but it just doesn't do anything. I don't think it's quite as good as it might be like the worst. It's not really an overworld theme, so it doesn't really count. It's gonna be with 10. 10's works a little better than this one does. Yeah, it's just not that great. 15 does have an overworld theme, because 15 has an overworld that you get to run around in. Wanderlust. Almost done. This will be the last tier list I make today. And then I will bid you farewell. Wait, where's Final Fantasy 15? It's Yokoshimamura, that's why. Wanderlust. Is this really what plays? Seems to be taking a while to get to anything. Let's skip ahead. Okay, so apparently this is one of them. I don't really like this. And the other, or this one. No, this same. And then I've heard this one. Yeah, they're good songs. I don't think they work very well. I mean, they do the same kind of thing that the Arclight Step did for 13, in that they just kind of exist in the background and don't really like do anything to add the sense of wonderment. Granted, 15 is interesting because it gives you essentially an iPod that you can play anything you want. So you could run around with any of these other games Overworld Themes playing, which I think on my most recent one, I had listened to Terra's theme, the main theme from 2, and I think Eternal Wind quite a bit, as well as a handful of other things. But yeah, no, this is C tier. It's not good. Actually, I'm gonna throw it in D tier. I think 15's soundtrack is fine, but there's really nothing going on with it. It's just kind of a soundtrack. It doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't feel good. All right, well, now this brings me to 16. I might have to go to YouTube. Yeah, okay. God damn it. God damn it. Get out of here. Yeah, that's what I'm... All right. Sorry, that was really loud. That's really loud. My bad. All right, so this song works well because it I think this song, so when you first experience this, I believe it's after the introduction of Clive, the back, it's doing the backstory where it's him going on his first mission as a youth. Like his dad is going to Phoenix Gate, and him and a couple of dudes are going to investigate an instance of a town being overrun by monsters and the Blight. And you are then introduced to the Overworld theme because you have to choose where to go. If you'll notice a couple things. One, I think it fits kind of the tone of the game as a whole. 16 is a very dark game in terms of there's a lot of like heavy themes early on, especially. There's like themes of slavery and a caste system and class system that kind of go against one another. There's themes of betrayal and all this kind of stuff. And it's rated mature. There's bad words that are in it. There's lots of blood, things like that. So this theme, this world map theme, is very ominous. It's very unwelcoming, and it kind of puts you in a bad state because the world is ominous and unwelcome. But it's also a play on the Final Fantasy overall theme, the main theme of Final Fantasy, the Final Fantasy theme here. Put that on real fast so we can listen to that. It just kind of opens up to that. Where's Final Fantasy 1? Nope. 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 It's this. It's the Final Fantasy prelude. It is the first thing you hear when you boot up the very first game, and they riff on it in 16. And the Overworld theme is just a play on what this is, and it works. It brings everything together. I think that theme works pretty well. I'm gonna put it in A tier. I'm gonna put it above 9. I think it works really well for what it is. Fits. It's just pleasant. I'm actually gonna add an addendum here. Oh God. Okay, there we go. Yeah, no, 16 works in ways that it maybe shouldn't, but it does. It definitely works. And yeah, so here's my rankings for Final Fantasy's Overworld themes. I knew this one was going to take a long time just because you had to listen to all the music and such. But yeah, 2's main theme I think just works the best within the context of when you hear it for the first time and like what it means to the story overall and the characters. 6 is much the same, especially since it's tied to Terra. It's kind of a similar situation of like it fits with what that character's gone through. She's the first character you really get to interact with, and the story is essentially based around her for the beginning portion. And then 7's really works in a way because it's tied to you finally getting out of Midgar, and it's ominous, and it feels oppressive, but there's still a sense of wonder and adventure that are behind it. And then everything else below that just doesn't do that thing that those 3 do in quite the same way. And then 15's just doesn't. Yoko Shimomura did a fantastic job with that soundtrack. It's a good soundtrack overall, but some of the music just doesn't fit with the situations that you're in. It's the only real complaint I have with 15. I mean, I got a lot of complaints with 15, but it's like one of the only real complaints with 15, and it's the thing that holds it back to me. All right, excellent. I did it. I did the thing that I said I was going to do when I started the project, or at least halfway through the project. Like, oh yeah, I'll just rank some stuff by the end of the year. And sure enough, it's the last day of the year. So, I did it. But yeah, that will conclude today's stream. That'll conclude streams for the year of 2023. And if you're here, thanks. If you've been here through most of this, thanks. If you've not, but you stumbled upon this and you stayed to watch this, thanks. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your 2023. There's only a few hours left. And I hope that you have a wonderful 2024 in front of you. And I hope that you'll continue to spend some time watching my dumb streams where I play JRPGs and rattle off curse words over the top of them. That kind of thing. We just started Star Ocean Second Story. right here. And we're going to continue with that tomorrow, 1st of January. I was going to do something like I'm going to try and stream every day for at least an hour. I'm not going to do that. I realized I have some stuff that I can't get around, and I won't be able to find a time to stream in order to do that. So, but I still had a lot of fun doing all of this, and I have a lot of fun with, you know, I have a lot of fun doing this as a whole. Doing all of these streams. I love streaming. I love to play games on the interwebs, for whether or not people want to watch them or not. I like taking those and making them into YouTube content, if indeed that's, you know, a thing that can be done. Which for the most part I'm able to do, just because. And yeah. Final Fantasy is a treat. I love Final Fantasy. I think it's a wonderful franchise, and I'd like it if people would play it. You don't have to love it. I'd like it if people would play more of it and enjoy it and just have a good time with it. And there's a lot there that is interesting. It's not the greatest. In fact, a lot of what's happening in those games is bullshit and really stupid and not worth really getting too excited about. But if you can take it as what it is, you can have fun with it. And yeah, if you like anime, Final Fantasy is some anime ass bullshit. Like, go for it, have fun, enjoy. Pick one, and it's gonna be anime. Yeah, all of them are. But yeah. So that I'm gonna stop prattling on, and I'm gonna end this. Thanks for joining me again. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for stopping by. If you repeatedly do so, Earlock and Dragoon, I see you here all the time, and I appreciate it. And I hope you'll stop by again in the future. Until next time, have a good rest of your year, a very Merry New Year, and I hope you'll stop by in the future. Farewell.